Just a minute. I am live. Good morning. I had to take a look because I was running late, it said. Or it said it was just waiting on me. Well, there's one for you. Anything waiting on me is probably running behind. Oh, I hope I do not have problems with the internet today because it took like a long time. And now I will turn that upon. Good morning, Mike Cabral. How are you, sir? Good morning, Zippity Doo Doug. Welcome in. Francisco, welcome. Hang on just a moment. I have a back call. Okay. Uncas will be here in a moment to join us. Apparently, I sent him a blank email yesterday with no link in it. It said it had a link. Yeah, I turned it back on, Mike. I had it off because I was talking to this child. Damn,
Good morning.
You look like an Amish farmer almost. Got the white shirt on, the black suspenders, and
I've joined the order.
well, that's where you been.
I gotta shave my mustache off though. I don't like that part.
Oh, that's right, you do. Yeah. Well, you got to pay the price.
No, you gotta pay to play, buddy.
That's exactly.
But do you just shave this part off, or do you have to shave it clear down like here?
Well, most of them seem to have, all the way down in right here.
Yeah. So everything above here.
Yeah, I think it's just the part down here on your neck, hang down parts can stay. Good morning. Who've I missed? There's Brenda Pruitt. I missed her coming in. I know that. I said hi to Mike. And
my brother from Canada, who
brother
was just about to make his first purchase of a horse trailer, is here.
Right. Hey, you know what? His wife's not in here. This would be an excellent time to talk horse. You got to take advantage when you can, brother. How are you this morning?
Me?
Yep.
Well, I've been up and betting horses and fixing fence and it's just been a beautiful morning.
Why are you having to? Are you?
Oh, that goddamn filly keeps getting in the wire or something. She keeps opening that darn wound up, and
oh man,
I had it just about healed, and I don't know if Hank got a hold of her or she got in the wire again, the exact same spot. and busted it open. And so I've been like doing that again. So no rest for the weary
or the wicked either.
or the wicked.
I hear.
I told Hank that he was pretty close to getting a 22 bullet in his head if he don't quit chasing that foal. So.
That could be part of the problem.
And I don't know that he's doing it at all. And then the boys' horses are all gone. They're all MIA.
Oh, they're not gone officially. They're gone escaped.
Yeah, I think they went down through the water gap on the river and they're on the neighbor. So, and unfortunately, that is a big, like 7 mile long pasture. So I'll have to go ride and bring them home.
Did the mule go with them?
They'd been gone for a few days before that, but I saw them over on the south side of our property. Finally, the grass and the vegetation is so tall this year that you can hide an elephant. And anyway, they took off, and country people are going to gripe and complain about whether it's too dry or too wet, and regardless. If you got too much grass or not enough grass, we're going to complain about it. But anyway, they went. I think they went through the water gap and they're down on the neighbor. But like I said, it's a big old pasture. I'll have to go grab them. You just disappeared it on me.
You disappeared it on. You froze on me. Maybe it's my end. It might be on your end. Hey, bud.
There you want
anybody else? Who's everybody see? Me or Mark? Or both? John said, "Sir, good morning, gentlemen. Beards are looking good." Wait till you say Mark.
Here, let me get full length here, John.
I think we're back up to speed now. You gonna get up here? Come here. Teddy was talking about going out on strike with the riders this morning, but he may be going to cross the picket line after all. Are they going to call you a scab?
He's a scab? I thought he was.
Well, I guess he technically wouldn't be.
He wouldn't be. He'd just like be an employee that kept showing up to work.
Yeah, that's true. I guess he's not. He don't like to be called that, so he's. He could have gone on no scabbing allowed.
No scabbing allowed.
Oh man, I can remember when people would go on strike up around home, which wasn't very many people because there wasn't very many unions up there. And except coal mines and truck drivers. But boy, if they did go out and people crossed the line, there could be war. I mean,
they killed people over that stuff.
Yes, they did. And
that's what Do you know that's where the term redneck came from?
I think I've heard that before, but
the Union miners from West Virginia and Kentucky, Eastern Kentucky, my people's country, they identified themselves by wearing a red neckerchief around their neck.
That's right.
And they were like actual employees that went on strike, and then the scabs came in, and people got dead over that.
And then they became redneck.
You don't mess around with a man's job.
Not in the mountains, anyway.
No, not when that's the way he feeds his family. You don't mess around with that.
Mike said they're almost on strike. We had a 93.8% vote to strike act at work. Woo. And we have a no media clause in our negotiations. I'm taking it day by day. No media. So can the other side have media events, Mike? That's interesting. I think I've heard of that, but I'm guessing that means you guys can't go to the media to discuss your demands or your grievances, whichever the case may be. Neither side. Well, fair at least.
Well, I mean that's fair, but then nobody knows nothing.
Yeah, nobody knows what's going on. That's a good point. John says his
I mean,
facial hair is
I
starting to
guess.
get a little white. Is it, John? Join the club, my brother. You'll have red and white inside on You can join us. We'll start a club.
A decade ago, my beard was coal black.
Yeah,
A decade ago.
Yeah, John,
and then it just crept in little by little, and then it just like poof, you're Santa Claus.
Yeah. John, we got a president and a vice president. Now we need a secretary, a treasurer, and a scribe. So we need 3 more white beards. So when you're ready, let us know. He's plucking. He gave up plucking the white hairs out. He said, "Yeah, it won't help, John.
Yeah, that's good because it don't do you a darn bit of good, buddy."
No, it's not going to help. I got news for you.
And I lasted probably a decade more than my father and my sister, which I think is hilarious. She's got blonde hair now, but her hair was black.
Yeah, but that's because she's dying.
And so I feel very fortunate I took after my mama, who still has black hair.
Yeah, which is something unusual about the Zorns girls. They all have white beards like the men.
The Zorns beard.
Actually, your mom's an Evans.
Are you saying we're dwarves? We're all bearded, men and women.
If you're
it's gonna it's gonna be another one of those kind of days.
Yeah, it is. It is. That's fine. Your sister, all the meanness turned her hair white. I noticed Brenda's not saying anything. I wonder if
she has become such a wonderful grandmother.
Yeah.
I almost have a hard time thinking she's the same person.
Well, you've been gone a while. Maybe she's not.
She is. She's like, she bought her a Harley Davidson. She's an old grandma running around on a Harley, and she drives all the way down to Georgia and goes shark fishing for fun.
On her Harley?
Yeah. Wow. Her and her girlfriends have driven down to Georgia a few times now and gone shark fishing.
Well, my goodness. That's
They're
from Ohio.
And I've seen her lay that bike down in Dad's driveway several times, and I'm like, and she can't pick it up. So she has to rely on somebody else to come help her. You can tell that just really aggravates her.
Oh, I bet. Hey, I bet I could teach her how to pick it up.
But she is still doing it, by God.
There's a way that women can. There's some people that teach women that go to women riders meetings and groups, when they're out, and it's gotten bigger, and there's a couple of little bitty women that go out and ride big heavy motorcycles like Harleys and stuff and show people how to pick them up. There is a way to do it.
To turn it up and spin it up. Dad keeps trying to teach her how to do it, but she won't. You know her.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Especially if it's Dad. She's not going to listen.
John said he got home 30 minutes ago, 50 clams, and I'm done. Fly's already bad this morning. I sent you a photo on IG of the day.
Nice.
Let's see if I can get that pulled up before we leave, John.
John, it'd be better if you'd send us some clams. But they'd probably show up at my place just like the steak biscuits do.
Yeah, I'm afraid they would.
Not edible.
They would. That's not going to work. No,
I've got
seafood is not going
4
to make.
crawfish traps to put in. As soon as we're done today, I got to go set crawfish traps. We got to boil tomorrow. So,
John, what have you sent me? When did you send me this thing about the Piney film trailer? I missed that, brother. I am sorry about that. I'll have to figure that out now. I just did something wrong. I'm getting terrible about missing things on that people are sending me, like Mark this morning.
after 2 days, they get a little ripe.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking on the way.
My guess tomorrow, we're having a big old boil tomorrow, and they all think they're going to be eating crawfish, but they're really going to be eating mole crickets.
Oh God!
I bet they taste just the same.
You think? I don't know about
You
that.
throw them in a Louisiana crawfish boil, I bet they taste just like a crawfish.
Well, I tell you what, you call me back and let me know about that. I'm thinking I could tell the difference. Maybe they can't.
I think everybody could figure that one out.
Let me see here if I can pull these John's pictures up and look on them.
And John says that was a while ago.
Yeah, he sent me something and I just now saw it. I'm shamefully sorry about that. Okay, let me see if
it's just like we discussed already this morning. There's too many modes of communication.
Yeah. Oh, heck. I'm trying to make this big enough. Okay, here's one bucket full. Or part of them.
Oh, look at those.
They look like those are probably washed and ready to go, or maybe they're just straight out of the ocean. And there's a Mickey Mouse.
Are those quahogs, John?
And now let me see if I can pull up the other one while we're.
Golly, those are beautiful.
Yeah, they look good.
Oh man.
Can you still see that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, hang on just a minute. Let me
and a Mickey Mouse coffee mug right there.
Oh, that's what that is. Let me see if I can pull up. Let me get the other one here. Okay, and here's the second bunch. These are probably just divided up. I don't know. How many are you having clams for breakfast, John? Well, actually, you're probably getting ready for lunch by now.
Some raw and some steamed.
Mm.
That's an old pick.
No, these aren't. Oh, that other one was. Oh, that was an old picture. So this is the bunch from this morning, then, John.
That's what John says.
Well, heck, John, I'm all behind here. Uh-oh, I see one that's open. That's not good. Well, maybe it's not really open. Yum, yum, John. How often are you going right now? Hey, Carol's joined us. She may be on the road or traveling or something. They've been real busy.
50 is an appetizer.
Yeah, well, they're not that big once you get them out of the shell. I'll give you that, but that's a lot of fun.
I guess thinking about oysters, I could do 50.
I don't know if I could do 50 or not. Maybe in my
raw ones, I could do 50.
Hot sauce and lemon, or how do you like your raw oysters, buddy?
Just raw oysters. I don't like nothing on them.
You don't put nothing on them?
People dip them in sauce and stuff. I just like them right off the shell.
Well, I've seen people eat them in the shell, but they'll take a little hot sauce and dab on top.
I think they're pre-salted, given where they come from, and I just eat them right out of the shell. Love them. Golly, I love them.
What do you have to do to where you're at, John? I guess Brenda says she's sitting here screwing her face. Yuck. Carol,
you got to get past the loogie.
Yeah, you got to do that. Carol, good to have you with us. In case some of us don't know, Mark probably doesn't know, Carol's father passed away last weekend. So, may he rest in peace. And
my condolences.
I wasn't sure she'd be here today, so she might just be passing through. But we're certainly glad to see you.
That's a tough road to hoe right there.
Yeah, she's in Iowa right now.
I probably won't be. You won't be able to get a hold of me for like years after mine. Although I'm hoping he's going for the record. So,
well, he's doing all right so far.
He is
pretty honored for his age.
He's just darn sure going for the record. So,
well, the thing about your dad is he won't quit till he knows he's beat everybody else.
That's exactly right.
No, not Brenda's, Carol's, John. Sorry about that. I might have confused everybody, but it was Carol's father. I hope she doesn't mind me telling that. She posted it in my Instagram chat room, but I didn't even see it till she sent me a note the other day because I asked her, like an idiot, I asked her how he was doing. So,
but we all get to be idiots occasionally.
Yeah. So John likes his with a dash of lemon and Tabasco. I put that up there so you could comment on it.
I think that's fine. I like the fact that the surf bum loves the raw oysters too. They had to kick. I was at a wedding in Virginia a few years ago, and one of my veterans, I went back to his wedding, and his people were coastal folks, and they had this huge oyster bar, and they had to kick me out.
Yeah, you go home. You remember
and they had that sign up, all you can eat. And then they're like, okay, not except for that guy.
You remember what was it? I think it was Saturday Night Live skit where they were the big guy was in the Chinese buffet or something, and it was all you could eat. And he was up there all afternoon, and they were saying, "You go home." He said, "It's all I can eat." "Oh, you go home." And then there was the Monty Python theme where the guy did that.
The guy with the bucket.
They gave him a dinner mint.
But the guy with the bucket, is that the guy that you're talking about? The one
which movie? Now you got me confused. I got to think about that.
Well, you said Monty Python, and I just went to The Meaning of Life and the guy with the bucket.
Well, maybe he was sitting there eating, and the guy offered him a dinner mint, and one little dinner mint, and he just
exploded. Yeah, that's the guy with the bucket. He was like butter. And they're like, butter? You need butter? And he goes, butter, get me a bucket.
Mike says that reminds me of a story. One of my coworkers, we went to something.
Doing all you can eat sushi bar
lunch. They asked him to leave. He ate out the entire time. No, if I ate that much sushi, I would probably be sick. Yeah, John, the guy that exploded. That's the one I was talking
The
about.
guy that exploded, that's him.
I'm glad more people have seen that movie. I'm not sure that movie ever showed it. No, wait a minute. Was
That's
that
the one where the Grim Reaper comes to the door and he's like, "I am death." And they said, "Well, come on in, Mr. Death."
And then everybody at the table started dying, didn't they? As I recall. And then, of course, then they had to send out your dad, bring out your dad.
Yeah, but that's on a different one.
Is that a different movie?
That's the movie. That's the Holy Grail.
Okay.
I'm a fan. I'm a
I'm sorry. I'm not. I just got them mixed up.
Yeah, you are. If you've seen them and you're still giggling about them.
Well, they're hilarious. And
Well, the cool thing about the the Holy Grail is if you look in the back, I can't believe you'd even watch it. And the entire movie, through the entire movie, in the background, somebody is abusing a cat. Have you never seen that? They're like beating rugs with cats, and they're throwing and they launched the Trojan rabbit out into the forest, and it's a cat. I can't even believe you.
I forgot about that.
I can't believe you watch it.
Oh yes, well I have. Sorry, Ted.
Sorry, Teddy. Sorry, buddy. They didn't really mean it.
Oh my God, I'm a fan. Another thing I was a big fan of was Northern Exposure when it was running years ago, and Ed not Ed, whoever it was the artiste. Oh, it was the Chris in the morning, the radio guy.
Oh yeah,
and he built a trebuchet, which was just got me all excited. I didn't realize what a trebuchet was up to that point.
It's different than a catapult.
I just always thought they were everything was a catapult on the battlefield of battle, but that's not true. And he decided he was going to fling a cow, and then Ed told him, "What's up?" They did that in Monty Python, and he said, "Oh, it's been done." And then that just ruined his whole mojo because he couldn't do it again if it had already been done.
Oh my!
I think he ended up flinging a piano.
Where's our squirrel counter when we need her?
Yeah, this number will be high. I did put together a few slides, but most people probably ain't gonna want to see them anyway. Some people. Well, you'll see in a minute. You'll see. I'm going to show them because
we're not looking at gross insects again, are we?
Nah, nothing like that.
Nah.
You'll think they're cool, but some people might not. Trust me on that. I know you, and I know other people too.
I'll think they're wonderful creatures.
You will. Because you and I have stalked them many a time. You probably far, far more. John, Mike. No, he's talking about the other guy. He's talking about his buddy. Okay, I'm sorry. Now I went back and started reading them again. It's like that went through my mind. Now it's coming back around and
back on the guitar.
Back on the guitar. Oh, I hadn't heard from you all week. You've been out of communication or just?
I have been totally wrapped up in mostly grandchildren's.
Oh, my.
Oh, yeah, they got me. I don't know if we can see this or not.
Well, I was going to ask you about that.
Well, they caught me on the wrong trail and they charged me $5 each to get away. They let me go if I gave them $5.
What was the covering supposed to mean? I mean,
well, I don't know if they were supposed to be Bedouins
Oh,
or or Taliban or just some dude from like the 1880s or what, but they
oh,
got me. They came in and said, "Stick 'em up, Papa." and and I don't know if you can see the little blonde-haired one's eyes. I don't know if I can
the
get
one
this
in
right.
orange.
The one in orange,
Yeah.
she
I,
could pull that off.
well, she does that. I think is she the oldest?
And she said, they said something like, "Give us your money and take us out on the blue swing and push us."
Manual labor too.
So I had to go do some manual labor, and
I can
I
hope you gave him some change.
gave him $5.
He had to. He didn't have any choice.
Have I seen any Bigfoots or UFOs? Oh, moose. Yeah, Mike. We had a bull and two bulls and one cow yesterday morning
Oh,
in the
did you?
right on the south side of my northern pasture. So yeah, they're here.
But not in the yard. You hadn't had any in
Pretty
the
good,
yard.
pretty good bull. Pretty good bull. They'll
How,
be knocking on my door come hunting season, I'm sure. He's a pretty good bull.
how big are the antlers
And
now?
Mama's going to tell him, "You go away."
Yeah, you go away.
Even though he'll be in the yard, she's going to tell him, "You go away."
That's one of the most amazing. Well, one of the two most amazing things in the animal kingdom is how that they can
Antler
drop.
growth.
Yeah, antler growth. I mean, moose do drop them every year, same as everybody else, right?
Yep.
Well, yeah, I know they do. That sounds like an ignorant question, but I mean, and they grow. Some of them can grow so huge. I mean,
Well,
it's
I mean, you look at like an Alaska Yukon moose that grows 70-inch
yeah,
antlers every year. Or think even weirder, think about a critter that's extinct called an Irish elk
yeah,
that grew antlers that were, I don't remember the maximum width, 12 feet or some ridiculous amount. They shed those and grew those every year.
yeah.
And elk, um, they're the ones that amaze me because they grow and harden their antlers first of all the cervids at least in Wyoming, and they shed them
First, last.
later
Wow.
than. So mule deer have done shed, and whitetails have done shed, moose have done shed, and elk are still packing their antlers. They carry them pretty late in the year, and then they just start growing this amount. And it's supposed to be the fastest growing tissue in the animal kingdom of
Well, it
all
doesn't have to be.
of all the critters that live in the sea that regenerate legs and things. Cervid antlers are the fastest growing tissue.
Wow. Good morning, Don.
That's kind of a cool thing. So
That is, I mean, it is amazing. If you have to realize just, I mean, how phenomenal that is. Is there any gap from the time they drop till they start showing knots on their buds on their head again, or does it just start back
I
immediately?
think they actually push them off. I mean, I think that helps.
Do they? Wow.
I
Okay.
think it helps, especially with elk. I think that actually assists in the shedding of that great big old piece of bone.
Mike said if there's mooses, there's big UFOs most definitely around. Oh, that's a good.
And then John asked if there's still blacktail out there. And we don't have we've never had blacktail. John, we have mule deer, and then there's an actual deer species on the West Coast and in Alaska that is the blacktail deer. And some people, some of the deer biologists think that mule deer are actually originally were probably a hybrid between black-tailed deer and white-tailed deer. And I don't know that I totally buy into that, but I've heard that
me either.
several times.
I just assumed they were subspecies. I mean, they are very similar.
Very similar.
I mean, they both
and certainly able to produce viable young between the two species.
I'm sure, yeah, I'm sure.
And I think they're probably perfectly capable of reproducing those young, but white-tailed deer hybridize with blacktails as well, or with mule deer as well, and their young aren't.
Like a mule.
They're like a mule. They're not capable of reproducing.
Well, that's not a very good reproductive strategy then.
Right, but whitetail bucks are way more violent, and if they live in low numbers, like out here where I live, we have whitetail deer, but not a ton of them, and they'll breed mule deer does, and they're way more aggressive and way more violent in the rut than mule deer bucks are. And anyway, it happens.
John said someone had asked him that before, and he told them they didn't know blacktail was out there.
Yeah, we don't. That you got to go all the way to Western Oregon, Western Washington,
yeah,
Western California, Alaska, British Columbia. They're a coastal kind of a.
Yeah, and they don't they kind of live in the coastal mountains more?
They live in those dark forests out there,
The dark forest of the coast, which are pretty amazing, actually. I was going to mention something else, and I forgot. Maybe it was something. I thought I saw something. Hey.
Is he chasing that foal?
You need to go beat the dog. I don't know if they were chasing him. Figure of speech, people. Figure of speech. He's going to go take care of his foal. We'll be right back. Pardon us for this commercial break. When I had something, seems like I had a show and tell. Oh, Brenda, you have to remind me after a while to do my medicine. I forgot. Well, maybe I don't. I thought I had something here I was going to show. I might have laid it down somewhere else. Oh, well. I've got some other things to show and tell here in a minute. John, did you ever hunt? I mean, I know you fished in Wyoming, but did you ever try to hunt out there? When you were in the military, I don't think you would have had to have. I don't know how they do that out there, though. I don't know if you would have had to have a license. You probably have to have something, but I know here the licenses, I believe, are free. Okay, we'll do what, Brenda? Mike, what kind of museum did you guys go to yesterday, since you're talking museums? That's another one of my favorite subjects. Oh, off again. Been watching you, John. Have you been? Mind you, okay. Thank you. Thank you. Weren't you watching some Little League World Series regional stuff the other day? Because it's winding up this weekend. They'll start the World Series, Little League World Series, Tuesday or Wednesday, I think. I had it. I didn't have it written down, but I had the information pulled up the other day. I think the women and the girls are actually finishing up their softball little league championship right now. I think, if not already. Well, that's proper. I did that too early on. I had my girlfriend's father and brothers at the time for dove and pheasant. Yeah. I thought I was going to be killed. Well, you got to be careful about that, John. I worried about that too a time or two. John said he went hunting while he was out there, and he went with his girlfriend's father and brothers. He thought he was going to maybe they were going to shoot him out there.
They're going to take him out, and what do they call that? I never watched the show, but
which show?
What, that Yellowstone show? They take him to the train station or something. They say, and they took him down. They took him down into Wyoming, and they were never seen again.
No. Well, that's not good.
We're taking you to the train station.
They were out by the Sidney Kimball area. I don't know that well enough. You probably do.
Know it very well. Got a good brother from Kimball, a Christensen.
I was asking if you'd hunted much out there. What's the deal in Wyoming with the active military? Do they hunt free?
How do
they do?
No, they don't get to hunt free, but they get to hunt as residents.
Oh, that's okay.
So non-residents.
Maybe that's what it is they do here too.
Yeah, non-residents pay a lot more money.
Yeah.
Than residents do, and it was the same when I was in college. It was the same with college students. You got to hunt as a resident.
Yeah. How long would I have to stay out there in the teepee on your place to be a resident?
A year.
Okay.
We're a full year. We're not. We're like the last
months. No 6 months.
Because people would, I've been here 3 months. I get to be a resident. No, you don't. You got to be here a full year, or you don't get to hunt as a resident. And you got to be able to prove it. And you have to sign an oath at the bottom of your license when you buy it that you have been domiciled within the state of Wyoming and plan to stay here for at least a year, and then you can buy a resident license, but otherwise, no.
Of course, nobody would ever lie about that.
Well, that's the most common violation in the state of Wyoming. They call it false oath.
Yeah.
And they bust and they don't take it. They take it very seriously.
That's good.
Because because of the quality of our hunting,
yeah,
people try to cheat the system all the time.
Well, I got a question for you. You're probably gonna hate me, but every once in a while we just got to do this. I was just looking at something out there, and I read something that said that there's too many elk.
There are too many elk.
And they're trying to figure out what they're going to do about that, which seems a little bit silly. But the people asking the questions, as it was listed in this particular article, were ranchers and guides, and of course, people that have a vested interest in having more hunts. Do you have to have an indoor toilet to be a resident? Brenda wants to know.
No,
that's not part of the equation. And that's a proven fact because Mark's got an old 2-hole right behind his house. So those people didn't have one. Of course, we don't know for sure if they ever bought a hunting license either. Diana, hi. I didn't mention you. You popped in a minute ago, and I'm sorry I did not say hi and good morning to you. You've got a coffee cup. I tell you what, I sure do wish somebody brought donuts this morning. Oh.
So what were you going to ask me about? You said you was going to ask me something about elk
Well, that
beyond
was it. That was it.
beyond the fact that there's too many of them.
Yeah, that was it. I mean, I just saw it said in eastern and northeastern Wyoming. There's the farmers, of course, are starting to complain. Or ranchers, excuse me, are starting to complain. They're being eaten out of house and home, and that and I. But I know in the past that things like that have been said by certain members of the public, and it's not always been true. That they're looking for ways to one. Yeah, they want to lessen the population because they don't want to feed them, if you will, and guides and stuff want to hunt them more. So they have said that in the past. It seems like mule deer were really low years ago, and you were telling me that, and they, people were pushing to get more deer licenses, and people wanted to hunt, but you guys knew that the deer population was really much lower than people thought it was back then.
Well, that's it was kind of the other way around. We knew that we had more deer and we could offer more opportunity, but the resident of Wyoming, that's like a sacred animal. It seems to have become, and it's like we don't want to hunt them if we think their numbers are too low. Not the department, but the public.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe that was it.
And elk are definitely a competitor on the landscape, and they're much more. They can use everything out there, whereas mule deer are real specific in their dietary needs.
Yeah.
And elk are generalists, and they can take advantage of a lot of things, and they do. And their numbers have. If you'd have told me when I started with the department in '92, if you'd have told me you could ever kill more than one elk a year, I'd have told you were nuts. And now you can kill 3.
Yeah. Well,
And they're talking about helicopter aerial gunning them in the Laramie Range. It's all private land. Access is pretty tough. People just don't want to go up there and hunt them like they need to be hunted at the level they need to be hunted, because it's tricky to get around, and you got to go talk to somebody and get permission and all that stuff. And so it's just difficult to manage elk in eastern and parts of northern Wyoming. We don't have that issue here. Well, our herds are at objective or slightly above, and but we're mostly public land, so it's easier. It's easier to manage an animal when access is not limited.
Well, that brings up 2 things I want to ask about then. The first one is that they're not asked, but say, and that's part of the problem. You got out there, you've got so much private land that
only in eastern Wyoming.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. In eastern Wyoming, people, like you said, people can't get access to the land, so you guys can't manage them in a way like that. I hate to hear. I mean, and when you're talking about aerial shooting or whatever you guys call it, gunning. I mean, who would be doing that? They're the landowners, or they would
The
let
department's going to do it.
Oh, the department's going to do it.
Yeah,
man, what a shame.
And that would be, and that's a legislative deal.
Yeah,
They're like, if you can't get control of these elk numbers,
we're going to do it for you.
We're gonna insist that you do it, and here's how it's going to get done. And I mean, you don't have a lot of leeway in that.
That's a shame.
And that's certainly not what the department wants or what the hunting public wants, but that may very well be what happens with some of those populations. And a couple of them are herds that I managed in the past. And John's right. That's a lot of meat, 3 elk.
John asked a question about jack and rabbits, spotlight and jackrabbits.
So it's always been legal, John, to hunt jackrabbits with a spotlight at night on private lands in Wyoming.
But not on public lands.
And so if he was up at North Crow, the ground around North Crow is public land, but the ground immediately I mean, not too far away is private, and that's all totally legal. You're you you got no talking, buddy.
Yeah. Excuse me. Is that
So
is that a park or is there some public land right there that's
right around the reservoir it is, but it's not. It's just a mile or less to private lands. And I can remember it's not that way right now because rabbit numbers are down statewide, but um, I've gone to haystacks at night where there were 1,000 jackrabbits on a haystack. And
wow?
you talk about like hay disappearing. It's just like you got like 50 head of elk there, they're going to eat a lot of hay.
Yeah, they would. They would. Diana, that's an interesting perspective because there's many ways to look at that. I mean, some people live on that meat all year long.
And it's
That's how.
not greedy. It's a management decision that
Yeah.
we need this many animals removed from the population. Otherwise, they're going to create damage or create dam. Generally, elk aren't going to be affected that bad. Although their calf ratios start falling when there's too many of them. But
Yeah,
it takes a lot of elk to make their calf ratios start falling, and there may be a day where we're not talking about this anymore. But right now, and it's not greedy for. I mean, we're the department. I keep saying we. I'm retired, but the department is begging people to, go harvest 3 elk each.
what are they allowed? 3 does or one bull, or how's that work? What are they
Well,
doing
you can kill you can only kill one antlered elk,
there? Okay, that's what I thought.
and you can kill 3 cows or 2 cows and a bull, and that's what you're limited to. You can kill a calf too, I guess.
Now, and it probably doesn't sound very not, or to some people it might not sound right, but the harvest when you are managing deer, whatever kind, I mean, as far as I know, a lot of people want to take a bull. They want those antlers. They think that's the thing to go with. But from a management standpoint, you don't really. I mean, you're going to drop the population with does. I mean, you got to because one bull can breed. I don't know how many does or cows in this case that they could breed, but lots and lots. And so you don't have to have a lot of bulls to keep a population up, but you need a lot of cows and or does, whichever the case may be. And so that's why they're killing.
So if you put like
I
3
say
cows,
killing. I don't. I mean, it is killing, but it's that's when you say killing.
well,
That's
if you're eating meat, you're killing.
you're
I
killing.
mean, that's the simple fact of the matter. If you eat meat, you killed something, whether you did it personally or you didn't do it personally. If you bought it from the grocery store, you cause killing.
Somebody killed it. That's right. But you know what I mean when you're dealing with the public. Other words. Well, maybe you guys don't have to do that out there, but we had to be more, I guess, PC in that regard. And talk harvest instead of just killing because that was
Harvest,
trigger word.
management, yeah.
But it's a fact of life. As long as we people are on the habitat that these animals occupy, if we want to see them around or have them around for any reason, we have to manage them. Even if we just wanted to stand around and look at them all day long, they'd still have to be managed, or they would. Because most animal species, like deer, I mean, if you get overpopulated back here, deer will start. They'll have all kinds of disease issues. Parasites, blue tongue. There's just several things that will run through a herd. So, I mean, you can either have them suffer an agonizing, painful, long death, or you can harvest them.
So we have.
You don't have much choice, really.
I mean, and Diane, if you put like 3 cow elk in the freezer, that's about like a beef. So, people out here, I'm not sure how it works in other parts of the world, but a rancher or a private citizen or whatever will buy a beef or kill a beef and put a beef in the freezer, and you got meat for the year, and that's about what 3 cow elk would yield. But you just don't get any ribeyes or any of the really good meat that way.
True. True.
People tell me, "Oh, I love elk better than beef," and I'm like, "You're nuts."
Well, then that's why we have beef. That's why there's a problem there. We do
But
like
and and it's I don't know, it's a conundrum that's going on out here in the West, that elk numbers tend to be pretty darn high from New Mexico all the way to Canada, and mule deer numbers are declining. And there's some link. I don't think you can totally prove that one is causing the decline of the other, but they certainly don't, when they're competing for resources, it doesn't help.
Yeah.
So,
well, they
and when mule deer numbers were like unbelievably high in the West, elk numbers were very low.
Very low, yeah.
And people are like, well, that means this needs to happen for that, and we tended to see mule deer numbers had declined even in places where there weren't elk, and yeah.
There's a lot of other things that go on out there too, Diana, that the general public doesn't always hear about. I mean, in the way of disease and stress and disease, stress and disease. Crap! Why can I not say this? Stress-induced diseases like in whitetail. I mean, even in the national park here, for example, the deer, nothing's hunted. Nothing's hunted openly. Nothing's hunted by the public. But they annually check the number of whitetail does. I mean, they harvest several or sacrifice several, or how you want to say it, but they kill several deer in the park every year in Cades Cove area, which is just Mark knows, but it's a particular area in the Smoky Mountains that a lot of people like to go look. And it's sort of an unusual area for a park. But anyway, if the population's too high, then they have to harvest a certain number of those deer to keep it manageable. If you don't, they'll eat themselves out of house and home. And
that's a relatively permanent impact.
Yeah, right.
At least in a human's lifetime, that's a pretty when they have destroyed habitat. If there's so many critters on the landscape that they've destroyed habitats come back very slowly, and so
slower than populations could grow.
And maybe that's how it should have happened, but. You see these giant population explosions and then crashes that take, hundreds of years to come back.
Yeah, it doesn't happen overnight. But at the same time, if they get too high, then what you end up with is people driving along seeing deer dying in the fields and stuff, and nobody wants that either. It's a tough, from a management perspective, it's always a tough. In these agencies around the country in different states have a rough go. Most of them have a rough go of it to try to figure out how to manage the deer for everybody, the people that want to look at it, the people that want to eat it, or other species, but you hear most about deer, and how to manage them so they don't predate too many crops, and you don't have farmers mad all the time, and then if you don't have enough deer, you got other people mad, And if you got too many deer, you got farmers and ranchers mad. I mean, it's a constant tug on a management agency or personnel to make that balance. But it can be done, but it requires some things that some people don't think it should have to happen. I mean, there's the whole anti-kill group of people out there that don't see any reason in the world why we should be doing that. But at the same time, I don't really believe they'd want to watch deer just die from starvation and disease and things that would.
Well, you just have to feed them.
Well, yeah, and then you'd have to feed
which
them.
is stupid, which is the dumbest thing I ever heard of. But
well, I mean, you just can't. People think you can, but you really can't, and it doesn't work.
They have no idea what a budget would look like to feed all the mule deer in the state of Wyoming during a bad winter.
So yeah, first question.
Why don't you just like go out there and feed them? Well, we have hundreds of thousands of square miles of deer winter range. Hundreds of thousands of square miles of deer winter range. Not just like a few acres.
And nobody's going to pay for that. That's the other problem. Is you ask that question.
Well, I mean, sportsmen fit the bill on the whole deal. So
yeah, well, that's just it. We tried to get non-hunting population in this country to help pay the price, and they wouldn't do it. I'm gonna stop back in a bit. Hey, Dad, hi. I hope he's doing okay. Talk to you later, John. Thanks for coming in. Hope to see you later. Nobody wants to pay for it, and we tried hard down here a few years ago. Well, it's been 20 now, I guess, but to get other parts of the population that wanted to use and visit and see and enjoy out the outdoors and nature and wildlife, but they didn't want to pay for that, and which really disappointed me. And the reason
me too, that was awful.
I just couldn't believe nobody would step up to the plate, because hunters have paid for that since the 30s. There's been an excise tax on anything that had to do with hunting since, I don't know what year it was, but I think it was in the 30s when they passed that act. And hunters have been paying for all that to reconstruct and rebuild herds and populations and buy land to manage deer on and wildlife. And I mean, and that's has been paid for by and large the hunters of America. And it was sad to me that the people that didn't want to hunt but wanted to see the deer and the birds and whatnot didn't want to step up and pay a little bit, a few pennies here and there to make a difference. But that's the way fishermen do the same thing. Every piece of fishing equipment you buy here gets divvied up amongst the states, and that money goes to managing and supplying and making sure people can enjoy fishing all over the country and to save species. I mean, it goes for a lot of things, but it's amazing that people people just don't like the thought of paying for it. They want something done, but they don't ever understand where the money comes from, which is from them. And then they all buck up and, they don't want to pay. I made a lot of phone calls back then for that proposal, and it was amazing how few people really wanted to. Said they would. Hey there, look at Boudreaux Campbell.
Campbell. God dang, look how big he is.
Yeah, that's a good looking dog. I don't care what anybody says.
He's a good boy.
And nobody said he's not, but I wasn't sure how long his legs would be. I was really,
but they're not very long.
No, but they look like they're kind of in between them.
They're not very long.
But he don't look like just a wiener dog.
No, he don't. And he don't weigh like a wiener dog.
No.
Silly boy.
Did he get any better at, herding? Has Hank taught him anything?
He's a good herding dog.
Hank's probably moved on to the puppy by now.
Yeah, he's just having a hard time not leaving my foal alone.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But yeah, he and the puppy spend a lot of time together. He's got her on chicken watch.
So he can chase the foal.
No, he takes one side and she takes the other side. It's hilarious of the pen.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's got her out there on duty probably right now.
Do they punch the clock like they
like Ralph and Sam.
Yeah. Chicken one. And when you grow up, Penny, you're gonna have one shift and I'll take the other shift. Problem with then if you get too many herd dogs, one of them wants vacation and you gotta deal with benefits. All that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I thought about this, and we may have talked about this so many times nobody wants to hear it, but it came out of several different conversations we've had. So I'm going to pull it up, and just what the heck, why not?
Pull what up?
Well, my slides, and
okay.
I'd originally started out I thought we might we've talked about snakes a lot. We tend to do that. I thought, well, what about how many different varieties we have here? For example, how many different kinds of rattlesnakes do we have? And I don't know if we probably mentioned that, but I didn't think we'd made that prime subject. Maybe we have, because, I'm old and I get confused. But I'm going to do it anyway, and because I had a few pictures I wanted to show. And then we can come back and just, talk more about chasing foals around in the yard. So here's a warning, like they do in other shows, documentaries and stuff, and say that if you're deathly afraid of snakes, maybe you don't want to see the next couple of pictures, but nothing in there can get to you. Just remember, nothing can get out of the computer that I'm aware of. So let me pull this up and we'll do it. It probably won't take all that long, but we'll see. We can make something last a long time. You and I could probably talk about bacon on a skillet for a couple hours. And there's a bear with a question mark over his head because I just really wasn't sure what we were going to do. And I'll be honest, I dang near forgot to put anything together. It's been kind of an odd week. Brenda had surgery, and then I had eyes looking at, and and then something. She's had therapy, and it's just, I don't know. It's been kind of an off week for some reason. And we got to go. We're on chicken duty too. Of sorts. Hey, R. Johns, good morning, buddy. Long time no see here. I hope you're doing well. Very hot Florida. That's what I've heard, my friend. I've heard it's really, really hot down there this year. I've heard the water's so hot down there, it doesn't even, people don't even want to go swimming in the ocean. The top layer, foot or so, is just in the 80s or 90s. That's not good. That's not good.
That is just not even American.
Well, think about what that's going to do. If that's widespread phenomena in that part of the world, think what that's going to do for hurricanes coming up. All that hot, warm water, that's what helps build those things.
Well, that's what they've been saying all summer, is that it's going to be an awful hurricane year.
Yeah. And I hope it's not, but we'll see. Did you see?
Well, we had one, didn't we, just recently hit North Carolina? I don't remember what the name was. Something I couldn't pronounce. I'd never heard of it before.
Well, maybe that was it was out of season, wasn't it? You're right. Something did come up, and it was hurricane-ish, it was a hurricane, but it wasn't in the right time of year. I do remember that. Diana says, "Did you see the snakes they pulled an alligator out of?"
Yeah, I did.
I didn't. I don't know if I saw that one. I have seen it before, though. That's one.
They had one just like last week or something. They found.
Well, that's one of the problems with those big giant things in
a big retic or whatever it was that had a alligator inside it.
Oh, Argon, I wish I'd known that. We'd had dinner, lunch somewhere. Went to St. Louis to see your new grandson. Well, congratulations on that. I hope mother and grandson are doing well. Again, I haven't kept up real well social media lately, so I'm probably didn't know that. But anyway, let's move on to the next picture here. And the usual disclaimers and hit the buttons and subscribe. Oh, what was that? I saw something.
A beautiful creature.
Is sharks like that hot, warm water? You're going to have to start typing and quit talking in your phone. It don't come out right.
No, some of them do, and some of them hate it.
I don't think any. I honestly don't know there's much in the ocean that wants it that warm.
Some of those species like it hot, tiger sharks and etc.
Yeah, I guess
some of them want it cold, like white sharks.
Watch out! I mean, that's what the great whites like. That's where they usually live.
They like the cold water.
All right, so here's good morning, shiners. I thought that would sound a little bit like a hiss.
Look at those pits.
Whoa. Yeah. This poison rattlesnakes, and I guess the kistrodons are vipers too, are they not? Pit vipers?
Pit vipers, yeah. Yeah, and they got those holes right there.
Yeah.
And they got a smaller one behind the big one, and they got a little membrane in there. And it's like a heat-seeking missile.
Yes, it is.
They literally can detect heat.
Hang on, Mike. Don't run off now, buddy. I hope I don't drive anybody away. Don't hope our John's to hang around, buddy. I'd like to.
I've been climbing up rock faces and looked in cracks and saw that. Like,
that's not fun.
Which is not fun. That'll make you like change your position quickly.
Yeah, and probably change your knickers too when you get done. But this guy, I mean, these guys are okay. Let's dispel a rumor while we're sitting here. This rattlesnake appears to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Let's say 11 plus the top bead. So let's say 12 rattles. So Mark, that means he's 12 years old, right? That's what I've always heard.
Every time that snake sheds, that shake sneds. Every time it sheds its skin, which is 3 or 4 times a year, it gets a new button, gets a new segment of its rattle. And they can live to be, for a snake critter, fairly old, probably.
Yeah.
But not that old.
Well, they don't live as long as, say, a tortoise.
No.
And I don't know if they live. I think in captivity, some have lived in zoos or whatever for 15 to 25 years, maybe or so. But I'm not sure about that. Don't quote me on that. But they're not long lived like some of the other reptiles. But almost all reptiles, and I say almost all because if I say all, well, I'll be a liar. Shed their skin. They have to, because as they grow, that's how their new skin kind of forms beneath that. We shed constantly, so our skin don't come all off in one piece, which might be kind of fun.
Thank God.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't want to go through that, but would people say don't touch a shed skin off a human? You have bad luck, or somebody's going to die, because that's what some people say about snake skins. But they shed every time they shed a new button is more. So you gotta, a snake that's got 12 rattles, it's probably going to be way younger than you think it is.
4 or 5 years old.
Yeah, 4 or 5 years old. It's just shed. In fact, they lose rattles too. They don't all stay on there. The tip rattles can fall off, or they can get broken. I'm not going to go up there and borrow them from any live snake. I'll tell you that right now. But
So
anyway,
then the forked tongue thing, that's
Yeah.
cool. That's a cool deal too, because
Right.
they're sticking that tongue out and they're catching molecules from the air. They're basically tasting or smelling that
through their tongue.
through their tongue, and they've got an organ in the top of their skull called a Jacobson's organ, and that tongue retracts, and that fork goes up into that two-chambered organ, and they can kind of tell. They've got the pits that give them kind of a heat-seeking ability, like an infrared, and then they've got that tongue. I mean, they can hunt in the black dark. Perfectly
Oh yeah, they
capable.
don't need lights. They don't have to see things. They have like an infrared, like you'd see a night vision scope, or maybe more like an infrared sensor. They see heat. They can recognize
like
heat signatures.
Almost like MVGs, like night vision goggles.
Yeah.
So it's
So don't think if you
They're-
got a
they're-
rattlesnake in your bedroom, don't just turn off the light, because he'll find you. You may not find him.
those they're the most highly evolved of all the snakes.
I didn't realize that.
The
But
pit vipers are. They're well equipped to do what they do.
yeah, they are. And I've watched one. Mark and I caught a small Atrox. I'm talking about this long, maybe. When I was out in New Mexico one time with him, and we went out and bought a little tiny, teeny mouse. And that little rascal popped that, because they come out
Ready to go.
They're armed and ready. And mom don't feed them. Mom just lets them go. I mean, they go out, and as soon as they're born, they start hunting on their own. And it was kind of interesting, because when they bite something, when they strike and inject venom and, a prey animal, which is the only reason they really do that, unless you step on one or scare one or startle one or something, or messing with him on purpose. The critter ran off. The mice or whatever they strike, the squirrel, whatever it is, will run off and usually lay down and die somewhere on the other end of the aquarium, for example. And after a few minutes, that little snake just started following that trail. And it was just like he followed every footprint. He went all the way, and he didn't take any shortcuts. He didn't go across the tank to get there quicker. He followed the trail that the mouse had run on, and he found the mouse dead at the other end of that trail, and he got him down head first and swallowed him. He looked like he'd eat a ping pong ball. Well, maybe not a ping pong ball, but maybe a large marble. But I bet that little snake didn't have to eat for a while. But they're interesting critters. So and so this is just about this. I just wanted to show the variety of species and just talk about them. Here's a couple of posters that you can find. One of this guide to rattlesnakes is I believe might be a Texas state rattlesnake guide. And they boast the most rattlesnakes species, I believe, in the country. And the whole Southwest is kind of like this. Most of the southwestern states have the largest populations of rattlesnakes as a rule. I'm not sure there's that many. I think rattlesnakes in the east, while they still exist, are in danger, much more endangered than people think. So anyway, you've got some pretty cool guys on there, and these are very similar, but they're, this is something you can put on your wall, and this is like a handout brochure that I can't remember what state, but I think this is Texas. Missouri did one similar to this too, but I don't know if this is them. It might be, because they've got Masagas, and which tend to be a little bit more northern. But most of these snakes are, well, that's Baja California snake there. And a lot of them are some of them are subspecies of the same snakes, but
Yeah, that looks like the lot of them.
yeah.
Do they have timber rattlesnakes on there?
Well, they'd have timber rattles in that part of the country, according to the maps, anyway. Yeah, there's one right there.
But do they have like a tiger rattlesnake? Is that a tiger on the?
Ooh, I don't know if they do or not. Yeah, there's a tiger. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's an Arizona snake only.
Okay. Well, actually, you know what? This might be an Arizona brochure. Is that possible?
Not if they've got timbers on there.
Well, that's right. They don't go that far out. Okay. Well, I can't remember where I got this then.
It's just probably all the rattlesnake species in America in the U.S.
Maybe. But anyway, there's that many of them.
There's a timber rattlesnake.
These are kind of my favorite rattlesnakes, if there is such a thing, because we have them back here. But you can see some variety even in these. I mean, this is pretty much a canebrake to me, and canebrakes tend to be greener, but they're really just timber rattlesnakes.
They got that red dorsal stripe. That's
Yeah.
what separates them, kind of.
Yeah, and that's some that stands out more than on others. This, you know what? I put this slide in here twice probably. This is a big old gravid female, and this guy, I read there was a little bit of a story about the gravid's pregnant, just so that's a fancy word for bearing with child. You know, your wife probably don't want to know. She probably don't want to hear that word. But this was in Hardin County, Tennessee, and they had a couple of pictures of these pretty good sized timber rattlers, and they're relocating these, I think, because somebody's backyard, more or less. And you can tell by looking at the middle body of that critter that it's full of something. And and another little interesting, for me anyway, factoid about rattlesnakes and at least most venomous snakes that I'm aware of. I know copperheads do it. I'm not sure about water moccasins and water snakes, and rattlesnakes do it. That they hibernate in dens. Large dens of snakes will be usually underground or in rock formations, and sometime towards the end of the year, winter sets in, they'll move into those areas because cold-blooded critters don't like cold weather, and they'll stay within those dens all winter, and then they'll come out. And gravid females tend to not gather in a group, but they'll tend to go to a certain area where they give birth. They actually figured out that local snakes stay local to have their young, and there'll be one particular area that a lot of times they'll go to, and they'll bear their young, and then they'll go on about their business. I always wondered, I feel like that's what you and I stepped into out in New Mexico one time when we found 3 gravid females within about 10 feet of each other.
Yeah.
I think that was that sort of a birthing area or maternity side. I can't remember. Is that what they call it? I can't remember now, but it might be. But anyway,
they're usually right next to the den too.
Yeah, they're usually close to the den, and the males go on about their business, and the females hang around long enough to lay their eggs, and then they move on, go on about their business. And the little guys start running around all over the place.
Only rattlesnakes don't lay eggs.
No, they do not lay eggs. They don't. That's right. They give birth, basically.
Yeah, they have eggs inside.
Inside.
And then they hatch inside and they birth live young.
Which is, kind of really strange and weird if you think about it.
I don't remember. It's been a long time since I learned those terms. I think they're viviparous, meaning that they give birth to live young, but they have an egg.
Yeah.
Inside that hatches, versus ovoviviparous, which is a snake like a racer that
lays eggs.
Actually lays eggs like a turtle would do.
Yeah, they lay them in the ground, or basically like a turtle does,
and bury them. And
yeah, and then go off about your business.
yeah,
the only critter I know that kind of tends their eggs is a gator, and they tend to hang around the mounds that they do and tend their eggs a bit, like can vary the temperature inside the nest mound, and then that can affect male female birth rates, and but they don't really. I mean, after that, I don't know that they follow mom around or anything. She just tends to them, and then they go about their merry way. And she's thinking, "Oh my God, I'm glad I don't have to breastfeed all 50 of them." Snakes are terrible parents. Well, yeah, they kind of are. They're not good role models, Diana. I mean, you don't follow mom around to learn how to hunt or anything like, say, a beautiful bobcat would, or a bear. They don't do that. And this is sort of the kind we caught up on the mountains. This is a timber rattler, but look how black that SOB is. And this one, it looks more like kind of what I remember being up at Unaka.
Well, that one down there in the corner is exactly like one that I grabbed Dad around the waist one. We were picking huckleberries, and I grabbed him around the waist and pulled him back, and he was like, "What are you doing, boy?" And he was about to step on a 5-footer.
Yeah. So, I mean, you got a lot of variation amongst but I tell you, this one
and they're just cool. They're just like velvet. They look like black velvet.
Yeah. Don said, Diana G, one of the many drawbacks of being a snake. Yeah. Yeah, there's a couple of drawbacks I can think of. One is practically everybody wants to kill you. Human-wise, anyway. This is another really close-up of a timber rattler. Mark and I are not, timber rattler. And just another picture. Here's the pit we were talking about earlier. And I think the other pit is right here under this scale, and then on the other side of this.
Yeah, it's just right behind the big pit.
And
you can't even see it. It's just a canal. Right.
And another kind of an interesting thing, which may be subject to change, we'll talk about that in a bit, is all poisonous snakes all native poisonous snakes in the United States have this type of eye. They have vertical pupils. And some people say, well, I ain't getting close enough to see their damn eye, but you'd be surprised. You can see it from further off than you think. And but every snake that's native in this country that's poisonous has this kind of eye, and basically this kind of head. The only exception to that is the coral snake,
they don't have vertical pupils.
Yeah, well, that's true, but they also don't have great big glands like this to have make that big head. Basically, the poison glands are in this general area right here, and
it's just like a sac on each side of the skull that they have muscles around. And the hypodermic needle was invented because of these guys. Their fangs are long, and they thrust forward, and they have a hole in the end of them, and they hit you or hit the critter or whatever, and then squeeze those glands, and it's all linked up, and
away you go. But a lot of times always egg venom either. Sometimes they dry bite. So
I stepped on a big prairie rattlesnake in eastern Wyoming, and right in the middle of his back, I was working, and I stepped on him, and he popped me in the big toe. And my boss was with me, and he was like, well, I pulled my foot back, and the snake went flinging out into the grassland. And my boss is like, well, did he get you? And I'm like, well, hell yeah, he got me. And I'm like, just hold on a minute. And we waited around, and the venom is very painful, like 1,000 bee stings, I've been told by my buddy Doug Bitey Burkett.
Who experienced it firsthand,
And
literally firsthand.
we yeah, firsthand.
Right on his
And he got bit in the right hand. But
Yeah.
I was like, this is gonna hurt really bad if he got me, and nothing happened. It was just a little tingly, and we just went on and went back to work, and he did bite me, but it was dry, so that was nice. It was nice of him.
Yeah,
And Bob was like, "Hey, are you gonna go cut his head off?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not gonna cut his head off. I stepped on him.
Yeah.
He was nice to me. I'm gonna be nice to him."
That's true. That photo makes me nervous. And okay, I'm going to change the picture here, but it may not get much better. But they're not as close up.
Yeah, you're like going
I'm,
easterns and westerns, and
yeah, here we got our eastern diamondback, which is the largest venomous snake in this country, or at least has been up till now. And it's the heaviest. It's the largest. These things can get up to 10 feet long. And
they'll literally be bigger around in the middle of their body than your thigh.
yes, that's
They're
another
enormous snake. People are like, "Oh, I saw a snake like this big around." I'm like, when you see one that's that big around, that's a real one.
that's yeah. And when they lay on the ground, especially if you approach them, they flatten their bellies and that back, and they look kind of like a triangle, or I don't know how else to describe it, but they're shaped kind of like this almost. And some of them with that, there's a couple that have backbones that stick up even more than others. Question.
So, Mike, no, it won't be alive. It could still bite. It could still bite you for a little while because reptiles work different than mammals.
Yeah, their nervous system and brains don't function like ours do. So
But if you chopped it in half, that's a dead snake.
Yeah, I saw many of them. I saw quite several. I saw a lot of copperheads actually chopped up by bush hogs over the years, and they wriggle around and might even hang in a bush or something because they get flung out. But they don't live too long. But you don't want to go up and poke one in the eye or something because you can get bit. So I would have to cut the head off, then it won't be able to bite me. Well, not if you don't stick your finger in its mouth. I mean, you got to be aware
of that. If you chop its head off and you messed with that head,
you could still
within like an hour of it being chopped off, the snake's dead, but it's still got nervous function. That's
and then once it does die, it's okay. I mean, after you let it set for a while, it can't bite you like forever. It's just a short period of time after you kill it. But no, I mean, it's a longer period of time than you might think, but it's not like days and days or anything like that.
And I've seen like snakes with their heads cut off that the body was still trying to strike, and the head was gone.
Just hitting you with a bloody stump.
Just like hitting you with a bloody stump. And there's not, it's just a nervous reaction. It's that, again, mammals don't have.
Yeah. It's all about being a long, skinny reptile.
Mike says he'd rather wrestle a Yeti than a snake.
Well, that might be a good idea, Mike. Now I'm going to say something that's going to make me sound really stupid. Critters like crawdads, for example, they don't have brains like we do either. They have what are called like ganglion centers, or I don't know all the terminology either, but basically they have multiple brains, to simplify it, and then their nervous system goes up to each one of those. And snakes don't have that, but they do work kind of similar. I mean, they've got different nerve centers that.
Yeah,
That's
they
why,
work different than we
yeah.
do.
So you can chop one in 3 pieces, and they'll just keep,
All
around.
three chunks will move around a bit
Yeah,
for a
but
while,
not,
but
they
not
won't move around coordinated, but they'll move around.
forever.
Yeah, but not forever, right? And this I thought this was a really light color for Western. That is a Western, isn't it?
Well,
The
it's either a Western or a Mojave, but I bet it's a Western.
Well, I think it was listed as, and I mean it's a ringtail, so, but it's, to me it's got a really light color. It does.
Yeah, it's like, and some of them are gray. And you remember we found, I think it was you and Philip were with me. I found the biggest Western I ever saw over on the Gray Ranch, and it was a great big giant red one.
Mm.
And then the same day we found like little gray ones in the road. And
Yeah, I do remember that.
I have some great photos of them. But yeah, that beautiful snake. That's how I think about it. But
yeah,
see,
that's
that's a Western there, and there's the red one before was also the same species, and they can have the same. It's almost like Labrador puppies. You can have two colors in the same litter.
Yeah, they don't all come out looking just alike. Mike says one day you all be believers that Yetis exist. Well, keep working on it, Mike. You might convince us. And this is like things I read last night, and this is probably true. This is one of the most common. This may be the most common rattlesnake in America.
I think so,
because they cover their territory. Territory is huge.
Yeah, they've got all the western states, most of the western states, all the Great Plains.
You need anything from Costco? Mike and Diane are headed to Costco. You guys be safe. Have a good weekend. Hope you have a good day. Thanks for coming in. I hope you're not just leaving because we're talking about snakes.
Again.
Our track's running big circles and they cover a lot of the same stuff. There's lots of Yetis at Costco. There may be some here at Walmart too, Mike. I've seen some strange critters at Walmart. I saw something the other day. Remember, I'm a squirrel. It reminds me of, they said, you don't have to just go to Walmart late at night to see strange things. They're there in the daytime too, it said.
Yeah, I've heard them called Walmartians.
Yeah. Well, Mike, I appreciate that. We enjoy yours too. So you're always welcome, buddy. Mike, I'm on a mission, by the way, to find Mike and Diana a rescue puppy, a basset puppy. And they told me that if I found one down here that, we could work out some kind of a deal on, they'd come down and get it. So I'm looking. We're going to find out.
I bet there are.
There's a bunch of basset rescues around here, and I actually looked last night, but I didn't find any puppies, so I'll keep looking. They're super expensive, I guess, up their way. And here we got some variations too. We got your basic Southern Pacific. When I see something that says Southern Pacific, I want to say Southern Pacific Railroad or Northern Pacific Railroad. But you got a Southern Pacific rattlesnake here. I'm guessing California, Arizona area. You got a Catalina rattlesnake. And I'm not sure. I didn't look this up. These may only be found on the Catalina Islands. I'm not sure about that. You got a Mexican West Coast rattlesnake. You got a horned rattlesnake, which these are also, I think these are sidewinders, aren't they?
Yeah, that's a sidewinder.
Yeah. which if you've never seen them are really cool because they walk. They move sideways across. That's an adaptation, so they don't have to touch the ground very much in where it's really hot, the desert. Yeah, Brenda needs a giant beach towel, Mike. She showed me not a Far Side, but a cartoon yesterday. It showed people sitting at the beach, and they had this towel that looked like it was about half the size of a football field, and they were sitting on one end of it, and the tagline on it said, beach towel from Costco. I guess you buy everything in bulk.
So that Santa Catalina rattlesnake looks like a blacktail.
Well,
I'm gonna have to look that one up.
I don't.
No, I mean it might be a subspecies of blacktail.
Well, yeah, it could be. Yeah, you're right. It could be. I didn't think about that, but I think I've got a blacktail down here. Hang on, such as right here.
Yeah,
not down here. That's abandoned. But this one up here is a blacktail. Not the greatest picture. I mean, it's we ran.
You should have some personal photos of that guy.
Yeah, I do.
A much greener one.
Yeah, we found. Well, and we actually ran into several of these.
The banded too.
Yeah. You guys stepped right over one of these.
And that snake's only about that long. That long.
Yeah, they don't get very big. And their rattle is
sounds like a cicada.
Yeah, it's kind of high pitched. And these guys we were all walking on a trail, and then we walked by. And these guys, Mark's dad, Phil, Mark, and I was the last one in line. And everybody walked by it, and then I stopped and I said, "What's that sound?" And then we came back and looked up, flipped a rock, and there was one of those guys. He was, about that big. Yeah. Blacktails get bigger. They don't get as big as an atrox.
Blacktails are a real rattlesnake.
Yeah, they are that.
5-footers.
You can look at this rattle right here, this end button, and see how they latch on. They're hooked on to each other by this scale, and which is what these are. Especially what they call that. Their cells or scales that are within the body of the snake are designed to come out like rattles. I can't say that right. I need to get FYI, we're leaving you guys on the TV so the dogs can watch. Cool. I can't remember both their names. What's their names, Mike? We'll talk to them. I know one of them is oh, shoot. I want to say Bella or something. That's probably not right. Anyway, so here's a couple more rock rattlesnakes, banded and mottled. I don't know if that other one looks more banded to me than that one. And so there may be variations. These bands are broken.
They vary quite a little bit.
Yeah. This one down here is considered a mottled. And you can see it's just kind of dulled out. But, look how good he hides in that rock.
So those banded rock rattlesnakes live in southwestern New Mexico and southern Arizona. And the mottled rock rattlesnake lives in southeastern New Mexico and the kind of Trans-Pecos, Texas country.
Be right back. Keep talking. I'm still
here. That's all I had to say about that.
Hi, Ellie Mae. Hey, Coconut. We're going to talk to the Basset Hounds while we're here. It said their names are Ellie Mae and Coconut. If you give them commands, you better at least let them outside. Oh, we could have all kinds of fun with that. Ellie Mae and Coconut. I shall try to remember that.
I assume Ellie Mae of Beverly Hillbillies fame.
That's what always comes to my mind. I don't know for sure. Maybe they're still listening. They can tell us.
Oh, there's a Mojave.
Yeah, there's a Mojave rattlesnake and a Massasauga.
Well, that Mojave is they're kind of so venomous snakes, not poisonous, venomous. They have
Oh, wait.
they have basically two kinds of venom. Some of which works on your nervous system, like the cobras and the coral snakes and etc., and shut down your nervous system and prevent you from breathing, etc. And then some of the snakes, mostly pit vipers, have hemotoxic venom, which works on your blood system, and it's a tissue destroyer. It's basically a pre-digestive juice, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And Mojaves are unique in the fact that they're a pit viper that mostly has neurotoxic
No,
venom.
do they? I didn't realize that.
And that's why they're bad. That's bad news bear right there. That snake that's a bad one to get hit by.
Mm.
And they're big. They're not quite as big as a Western Diamondback, but close. And they're kind of ill-tempered. And
Well, if you lived in the Mojave all the time, you might be.
Well, but I mean, southern Arizona, they're completely across the entire southern part of Arizona.
Well, yeah, I know.
And all the way up into even like the Prescott area.
Oh, they go that far north.
Yeah, they go pretty far north. We used to find them around the house all the time, and they're like I said, they're kind of ill-tempered, and they're a bad snake to get bitten by, and
that's good to know. And you can see here, you really don't have a good size reference on this snake, but it looks to be 3 or 4 feet long, and there's only 2 or 3 or 4 buttons on there at the most. So you can see how snake size and age and buttons don't really go together. And that thing about age and rattles is not a truthful thing. I mean, obviously, the older it gets and sheds more, it has more rattles, but it's not a.
But then they break off too. So
they break off, but they get at least 1 or 2 a year, and then at some point, like that one's probably broken the tip off, because if you look, you can see that attachment.
It's pretty blunt.
Yeah,
and so most of the rattlesnakes in America are or around the world, not around the world in the Western Hemisphere, because they're not around the world. They only live in the Western Hemisphere. But there's a big South American rattlesnake, Dorissus, which is a great big one. And but they only have the one species down there, and we have like a gazillion up here.
Yeah.
And they most of these rattlesnakes are in the genus Crotalus or Crotalus, however you want to say it. And this snake on the other side, this Massasauga, it's a Cistrus. It's not a Crotalus, and it's got some little tiny cousins called pygmy rattlesnakes.
Right. I didn't put any pygmies in here, I don't think.
But there's basically 5 species in that genus, I think. Well, I assume that because there's northern Massasaugas that live in the east and the upper Great Plains, and then there's a desert Massasauga that lives in the southwest, and then 3 species of pygmy rattlesnake.
And they're kind of scattered out too, are they not?
Well, they go from Arkansas or East Texas to Florida.
Yeah.
You have one there.
Right.
I don't remember which one. We had Duskies, I think, or I don't remember which subspecies or species it was in Arkansas. But remember, I had one,
Yeah.
and she gave birth to 4 little live young,
Oh, bouncing baby youngs.
and they were literally about the size of a number 2 wooden pencil. And we never could get them to eat anything. I had to turn them loose. They wouldn't feed. She did.
I'm trying to find their Cisterus miliaris or miliarius. I don't know how that's more the. Anyway, it is a. I was trying to figure out which one. I think Dusky's what we have, but I'm not
Well,
positive.
maybe mine was Western.
Well, this one shows the chart I'm looking at here shows them, in Arkansas stuff. This article one article I looked at says that they are maybe the most common venomous snake in the southeast, but I don't know if I believe that.
They were super abundant in Arkansas.
Were they? You saw a lot.
We found them all the time.
Kind of like
They're just hard to see because they're little.
Well, yeah, that's a good point.
But yeah, we found them all.
They're obviously not as aggressive, which most of them aren't. Honestly, most snakes like this aren't aggressive. You can walk right by them and never know they're there.
Right.
And most venomous snakes are that way because you're not what they're laying there waiting on. They have some really cool tactics for hunting too that I've read about, and a couple of guys I know researched them and discovered some of this stuff. But mice have a habit of running along the tops of trees, down trees. They'll run along the trunks, and these guys will lay in wait beside the tree trunk, and they'll like lay their chin just on the tree, and they can feel the vibration of a critter coming before they sense it thermally. And when it comes by, they snatch it, and they have favorite hunting grounds. These guys track some. They were doing the Achistrodons, but they tracked some rattlesnakes and copperheads, and they found that most of them had hunting areas, and they would kind of move from one spot to another, over the course of a season, and then go back to the same dens usually. And but they had favorite areas they liked to hunt, and they had that strategy of landing. So when they're laying there, unless you step on one or kick it up or something, most of the time you're not going to even hear the rattle or see it because they just lay there. Those 3 we walked up on in New Mexico didn't rattle a bit till we started messing with them.
Right.
We were walking right through them. I mean, I was standing right beside one almost when I looked down and saw it.
And I hear a lot now that like all that we, humans have killed off all the rattlers.
I worry about that back
all
here.
The snakes that are prone to rattle. And that now we, genetically we have forced. We've not forced. We've changed the genome to the point where there's only silent snakes out there, and I will repeat what one of my coworkers said forever: data, please.
Yeah.
Because I don't know that I believe that. I still see plenty of prairie rattlesnakes that
rattle.
As soon as I'm anywhere in the country, I've had them when I'm driving by in a pickup truck. Start buzzing, and they're 30 yards from the road, and I'm not convinced that that's accurate, but a lot of people say that now.
Well,
I
back
think
here, I don't
it's
know.
one of those deals that gets repeated and repeated
Yeah.
and repeated
Somehow,
until it becomes fact.
yeah. Now back here, I don't know. A lot of the states, some of the states back here, as in the east, in the northeast, have put timber rattlers, for example, on a pair
And
or threatened, endangered list. Maybe not threatened or endangered yet, but certainly of concern. And I honestly think there's areas here where they've just about been eradicated. I really do.
well, and it's the den site, at least that's what I have read is that, den site destruction is the biggest cause of declines in rattlesnakes. And it's because they go to the same den every year and they always have. And they once that den is gone, you can't take them and put them in a different den site. They don't work that way.
We had, I think I've told you this before, but there was a particular mountain that I worked on a couple of seasons well, more than that really. But when I was first going there to mark boundary line and to keep kind of protect our property, I would talk to the bulldozer operators and whatnot that they were cutting the roads and the home sites and that kind of stuff.
Right.
And they were just cutting this particular mountain all to hell and back. And it was a pretty tall ridge well, you know how that country up towards Cherokee and going up towards the plants and all, it's just one ridge after another. And this was one of the bigger ones in that area. But they just kept telling me about all the snakes they saw and how many rattlesnakes they saw. And they may very well have been, and they may have been killing what they found, because I'm pretty sure they did that. And but you're right. I think part of what was going on was they were blasting through den sites.
Yeah, which is once it's gone forever.
And when I was there on foot looking for critters and walking the property and looking for rattlesnakes, I never saw not one. I only think I ever saw there, in fact, even along the edge of the water, which I'm sure there was probably water snakes that I didn't see. But the only snake I ever saw was a garter snake. And one snake, and that was an odd time of year, as I recall, because I thought, well, that's unusual. And but it seems like it was getting late in the fall, and I thought that they should have been. It was getting cold, and I thought he should have been gone. It seems like it's been a while now since that happened. But rattlesnakes that were supposedly under every step you made, I just couldn't find them. I didn't see copperheads. I didn't see any rattlesnakes. And like I said, I was carrying this. Usually, I had a hook with me, and I was flipping rocks and logs, looking. You know how we are. I was looking for stuff and never found anything. So I'm afraid in some areas, and there's been some concern. There's a guy here that was in the paper one day that was his job, or one of his jobs, was to go out and collect rattlesnakes and copperheads off the mountain and take to snake handling churches. I mean, that's what he was doing. And so every copperhead or rattlesnake he found, when somebody needed a new box of snakes, he went and got them. So I'm sure that didn't help the populations any. And then there was
I don't think those are the big impacts, though, Tim.
No, they're not. But
I think the big impact was that they just destroyed den sites.
And well, yeah, I believe
and that entire population of snakes is dead. It's gone forever.
I don't know if you remember this or not either, but we were in Nashville still when this was going on. There was another article in the Tennessean one time and in fact, it was on TV. Now that I think about it, it was about these 2 or 3 old boys that ran hounds and like hunt. I don't know if they had squirrel dogs, might have, and they might have had bird dogs, but they were running some kind of hounds. I'll give it 1 minute. I was waiting.
Oh, I got dogs missing.
Uh-oh.
I just don't know where they are.
Who's gone?
All of them,
Reckon where they're at.
all 5 of them.
Huh. You need to go?
I don't know.
All right. Well, I'll finish this. Anyway, these two or three old boys were going around and finding den sites, or knew where there were some den sites, and they would take a damn fishing pole with treble hooks and get back into those den sites and hook snakes and drag them out and kill them. And they were doing that because in their mind they were saving their dogs. Their dogs were getting bit, and they were saving their dogs. And there's no telling how many dens they might have wiped out if they were successful. But they killed a fair number of snakes. I know that, and were quite proud of it at the time. I always wondered if they got in any trouble with that because it was on TV and in the paper. And technically, they were doing an illegal act, so I don't know how that got looked at by the state.
Well, I mean, at one point there wasn't any law about snakes.
No, there wasn't. Yeah, right, there wasn't. But now there is. So I mean, basically, if they're not on the list, they're not supposed to be killed, hunted, and killed. And here's some of those pygmies he was talking about a minute ago. This red one, I believe, is from this is a North Carolina or South Carolina variation. It's over towards the coast. And this one is, I think, what we might have around here. And I can't even see if that one's got a rattle on its tail or not. I think it does. You just can't see it. I don't know who's left, but I don't know if you've ever heard of rattlesnake, but they're kind of unique. They don't rattle like you might think, like a child's rattle makes that kind of noise. They're more like
What
all of them around. They buzz. You get them buzzing, they can get loud. Did you hear what I said about this one? This red one was supposed
So
to.
that's a beaut. That's that coastal Carolina version. Yeah. They're beautiful.
Exactly. I'd like to see
that western is the dusky or whatever is that next photo's one that we had in Arkansas.
I think this is what we have here. I'm not positive, but I think
they're cool little snakes too.
And the state's been asking people for several years, I think they still are anyway, that if you see one of these guys, to report it, because they're trying to figure out, where they're at and how many might be, because they are concerned about numbers on these. Again, habitat destruction and things like that, I'm sure, is what's getting those too.
Well, if you go to the Ozarks or the Ouachitas and Arkansas, 2 sets of mountain ranges that run east and west, one in the north and one north of I-40 and one south of I-40. Those things are a dime a dozen in those places. It's all Forest Service land, and they're just really abundant.
And these were interesting. Different signs people put up along like a park or along the road. I've seen a couple of these out west. You pull up to a rest area or something, and you'll see something like this along the edges saying, be aware there are rattlesnakes here, such as this big beauty over here. This is a sign in Nevada that you might see at a rest stop or at a place where I thought this was kind of interesting because they talk about, they're telling you one way to prevent them having them maybe in your yard by keeping rodents out and things like that, because, that's what snakes eat. But I also thought this was interesting. Always walk your pets on a 6-foot leash and never allow them to interact with wildlife. Well, duh. And never allow them to stick their heads in holes or places you can't clearly see, which is damn hard to do sometimes. Prevent that. But I thought it was interesting that they're trying to keep people on let them know that the only way, you keep on a leash so they don't interact. But I think to some degree, I mean, animals do get bit. Dogs get bit, cats can get bit, but they don't. They're pretty good about staying out of the way.
So I had a Labrador English Pointer mix male. And when I lived in eastern Wyoming, he got bitten at least 4 times a summer, maybe more, and had at least 12 bites that I can remember, to the point where my veterinarian just gave me a bottle of steroids or like prednisone and syringes and said, put this in your truck. Next time he gets hit, just give him a shot of this.
Really?
And he never did learn. We had tons of rattlesnakes over there.
Oh yeah.
And he never learned. He'd get bit right in the nose every time. And he was chocolate colored like a chocolate lab. And his nose would swell up great big and droop down. He looked like a moose. And dogs handle snake venom really well, whereas we wouldn't be able to do that, but dogs can.
So we can't do. I was getting ready. That's my next question. Do they ever use steroids on humans for snake bite? I wasn't aware of that.
I don't know. I don't know if they do or not.
Might be part of the treatment, though.
They have a vaccine that they've developed in Arizona that they really push on the public for dogs, that I'm not sure if it's beneficial or not. To me, it's like, well, it's not a virus. It's not
right
of bacteria. It's a digestive enzyme. I don't see how that works, but they sure sell a lot of it down there.
I bet they do, especially when you consider the people coming into the state. I mean, living down there now, retired.
Yeah.
And these just a couple more. I just rattlesnake country, and I like this one up here that says they may be found in this area. They're important members of the natural community. They've tried to put something in here to let you know that they really do belong here. But if disturbed or cornered, they will defend themselves. Give them distance and respect. Yes, that is very important. And I thought these were highly unusual, and just this top one is a diamondback. And honestly, I'm not sure which species. I can't remember if it was Western or Eastern, but I mean, you probably could have told when it was younger, but you can't see any markings right on there at the moment. I don't know how long a snake like this would actually live in the wild, but.
Well, that looks like an adult, but I would think that they would be immediately food for a raptor or something.
Yeah, I mean, that a snake like this is going to stand out like a neon sign for a raptor flying overhead. And they certainly eat rattlesnakes all the time.
I just saw a deal yesterday, I think. Some gal, like a snake fell on her or something. And she, oh, help me, Jesus, one of those kind of deals.
Yeah.
and a red-tailed hawk flew down and grabbed that snake and flew off with it. I don't know where it happened. You're breaking up on me.
Uh-oh. I saw myself get a circle a while ago. These are some of these are Tennessee snakes. This guy here, can you hear me now?
I can.
This guy here in the red shirt reminds me of that guy that had the Bigfoot in his backyard that talked.
Oh, yeah.
And they're cheating a little bit on this snake. That's a pretty good sized timber rattler, but they're holding it way out close to the camera. That's cheating. That's like an old fisherman's trick. You hold the fish out at the length of your arms, they always look big. Make them look huge.
It's like Dad and Dale used to catch bluegills and put them on a piece of monofilament and hang them off a clothesline and then back up to where that bluegill looked like it was about 5 feet long.
Not sure about this upper left one. I put it in there because these are kind of snake handling variations here. Although I expect this one right here, this is the dead over the stick mode. I'm pretty sure that snake's probably not
Yeah,
alive.
that snake's dead, but that other one, the one that's tubed over there, isn't.
No, and this one, I was going to point that out in a minute. This one, and I think this was, I don't know if this was what they called a long-tail rattlesnake, but it's got these stripes all the
I
way
don't
back.
know it.
I
don't know that snake.
Well, me either, and that's what I was saying. They were calling it a long-tail.
It's got to be south of the border, kind of a snake.
Yeah, it might be. I didn't. I should have read more about it, but I thought it was unusual. I mean, you look at it, and it's almost like two different snakes.
It's cool looking.
This over here, this was another, I think, in Tennessee type snake, and this guy's got a pretty good grip on it. I'll promise you. Here, and this is another way to handle it. You can get to the point, and it's can't get back you. It's not big enough it can turn on you, because I'm telling you something. If you hold one wrong, they're going to turn around and bite you. And they don't, once you get one mad and take it in hand and do things with it don't enjoy, it's going to remember.
Well, we were doing a bunch of research on midget faded rattlesnakes out here, which are another neurotoxic rattlesnake.
Oh, wow.
And I was tubing them like that, and they're just a little bitty, they're another little bitty snake. And I got the smallest tubes I could get, and I'd feed them up in there, and those little suckers could turn around inside the tube and come back out towards your hand, like where that guy's got that one held by the tube.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just always gave me the heebie-jeebies. I was like, I'm gonna get bit by one of these little guys.
Yeah, that sounds to me like the tube was too big. I think we're down to three people. If it gets down to two, it'll just be me and you. We can have a good old time then.
Yeah, well, I gotta go because I got crawfish to go trap. But
oh, that's right, you do. Who are you feeding tonight or today or tomorrow?
Tomorrow, whole bunch, 25, 30 people.
Oh, Jesus. It's that time of year already?
Well, I've already had one, and I'm going to be having another one tomorrow.
Did you catch crawdad? You've already had one at your house?
Yeah. Yeah, we had a boil 2 weeks ago, and just different bunches of family are here visiting, and that's.
Yeah. We hadn't talked a lot lately. We got to get caught up.
But I'm not going to get to do it today. So
I didn't think
Monday maybe.
Monday
maybe. I think I'm alone on Monday, which would be nice.
Anyway, I thought this was a fitting end slide because obviously it's the end for this guy. That's some kind of a western furry critter, isn't it? It's got I
don't know what it is.
It's got a stripy kind of bushy tail. Some kind of squirrel, maybe.
I'm not sure what it is.
Anyway, what it is food.
It is food. It was food.
It is what we know is, in the biz, we know is snake chow.
In the biz.
Oh, yeah.
All right, pal.
Well, all right. Well,
I'm going to bail out. I got to go get some crawfish traps set. So.
All right. Well, have fun.
If I was to not have crawfish tomorrow, I don't know what I'd do. Have to go buy shrimps or something.
Oh, geez. Don't want you to have to do
I
that.
don't want to do that.
No.
But,
All right.
my grandbabies yesterday said, crawdads taste a lot like shrimp, and I'm like that, or like crabs, maybe is what they said. And I don't agree with that, but they do taste like shrimp.
They do taste like shrimp, and they are related. So,
Yeah, but
all right,
anyway,
brother, you take care.
okay.
Let's talk this week. We got some catching up to do about some things. So,
Okay, I'm
let's
out.
do that. All right. See ya
Later.
later. And that's for anybody else that might be left in here, which I don't know if it's Brenda or who it might be, if anybody. Have a great day, and hopefully we'll see you next week. Same channel, same time. Bye-bye.